There's a million shows being made every year. Who decides what connects and what doesn't? Like who it gets connected to when is so subjective that you have to just create blind and hope that if you're authentic about how you create, that it will connect with the right people at the right time.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the Carganilla Online Variety Entertainment Podcast. Leading off, your host, Paul Carganilla.
Hello and welcome to COVEpod, the online variety show in which we aim to both entertain and inspire both our podcast listeners and YouTube viewers through a variety of art forms, including music, poetry, storytelling, special guest interviews, travel blogs, dramatic readings, a whole grab bag, a jambalaya of conversations, experiences, thoughts, and creative reflections for you to get excited about as you see it drop into your podcast feed, and you can listen to it as you drive, exercise, do chores, however and whenever, wherever you listen to podcasts. COVEpod, the Carganilla Online Variety Entertainment Podcast, is here with the goal to entertain and inspire you. And I'm so excited to reconnect with today's guest, who we first met about a year ago. But like so many of our guests, she's a prolific creator and she's been making new stuff, and we want to chat about it all. But before we dive into all of that, we've got to drag the cart back in front of the horse, lead it to the drinking water in which we can present a gift into its mouth. Let's welcome producer Craig Jackman. Producer Craig!
Welcome.
How do you do? And what a great episode that we're going to have today. Kat Hamilton. Wow.
This is so much fun, like delving into the second season of this podcast. We've met some new friends.
Yes.
But like one of my favorite things is catching up with friends that we met in season one and finding out what they're working on. And one really cool thing that, like, back when we first talked to her, we realized for the first time that she was an author and a poet. And
she's more than what she appears to be. Is what is so great.
And we discovered it like while we were talking to her, and then she talked about a book she was working on, and now she's like almost ready to drop it. Like the release date, by the time this audio podcast hits the platforms, her book is out, and that's just so much fun.
You know what I loved about the last time that we were on that she was on our show is one of the quotes that she said, and I just wanted to repeat that because it's so inspiring. It's so her, and it shows her multifaceted talents off, especially now that we've added a couple of more titles to just singer-songwriter to it and poet. She said in the last podcast on Cove, "My big advice to creatives is you can't control how much money you have or who you know or who your parents are. But you can control how hard you work, how you show up for other people, how kind you are, and how you are to work with."
Just brilliant advice. Like, break it down, and that's just like...
It was a mic drop moment for me when I had to listen to it back a couple of times because it is so... Yeah, it is so much of a mindset. And it is so inspiring to take that whole advice and use it as a foundation for moving forward.
Full on got goosebumps when you brought that back just now. And yeah, we first met her in episode 17 of Cove Podcast. And if you want the full introduction, go ahead and scroll back to that. But Kat Hamilton is a singer, songwriter, performer, producer, poet, soon to be published author, Titanic enthusiast. We're going to talk about this tonight. But here, right now, as we launch into episode 45, here in season 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming back to the Cove our friend Kat Hamilton.
Hello.
Welcome back, friend.
Hi.
We put you through the ringer in season 1 where we did the whole 60-second intro icebreaker challenge. So we don't have to do that again. But give us a breakdown. What's been going on with you for the past year?
Well, as you mentioned in your lovely intro section, I have a book coming out. So that's been my main focus. I've been through a lot of life changes this year. So I got my own place out in the mountains in Tahunga. So I'm adjusting to a new life entirely. And then living alone and all the joys and the crazy making things that come with that. And then, just focusing. I did my music video release. That was a big focus. I am about to release my book on Monday. And when this podcast comes out, it will have already happened. And then just focus on a ton of backlog music projects. So hopefully we'll have some more things released before the end of the year.
If I may pry, you say life changes that made you move to the mountains. Do you want to? Is that something you want to share?
I went through a big breakup, and so I hadn't lived alone for ages since I had lived alone.
We talked to during COVID and stuff. We had some friends who moved up to Big Bear and in the mountains, and they're just it's the pace is so much better, and it's so much better for my soul. Tahunga's obviously not as far as Big Bear, but does it feel do you have a soul adjustment? Is there any medicine there?
Yeah, I do feel like it's been better for my soul. And then, I love how quiet it is up here. My life is very loud and noisy. And I'm at events a lot, and I'm at other people's shows, playing my own shows. And I just love that after all the hecticness, I drive on the highway pretty much by myself. No one's on the highway back to town. It's so weird. Just me. And then, I'm just in this quiet mountain area. It's really nice.
I can feel you getting emotional already, talking about, playing your shows and retreating to the mountains. And I just, we want to check in, and as an artist, I touched on it in the intro. You're on a new journey as an author. Your book drops on Monday. We do this thing where you say I don't make a lot of money, and we know from the first time you were on the show, the money that you make, you're putting into your art, you're producing your albums, and it's something that is fascinating to talk about and look at as much as you're comfortable. But it's it's this thing that we feel, and we have this inner need to do from our hearts and from our soul, which is to create something honest about ourselves and show it to the world and say, I made this for you to judge. And somehow we find fulfillment in that, while at the same time it kind of tears us apart. So I'd just like to explore this, as you're talking about your life is very loud, and then you come back to the mountains. Is it about finding that balance, or is there some sort of even though I know this causes me pain and tears me up inside or makes me emotional, it doesn't have to be pain, but emotional, I need to tap into that. But then I also need to be able to retreat.
Yes. It's so funny because I was just talking to my therapist about this today. So completely crazy timing. I think that the creation of anything that I'm making, it's all about trying to get the thing that I'm creating to match the thing in my head that I'm trying to replicate, whether it's like the music or the book or anything. And I always feel my best when I feel like, oh man, I really replicated what I saw in my head. And then I always beat myself up if I didn't really replicate what I saw in my head, or something that happened was out of my control, kept me from replicating what I saw in my head. I think that's the catharsis I really get from art and making it, is like matching thing with what's internal that people can't see. If that makes sense. And I've become quite internal lately anyways, just processing a lot of change. And it has been feeling almost like a retreat to live up here in Tahunga, where it's quieter. My thoughts spill out freely. There's a lot of silence, which is good for me. It's weird because if you had told me 10 years ago I'd be living in like more like a solitude seclusion lifestyle, I don't know, like I would have been freaking out. Like I could never do that. I need constant stimuli. What are you talking about? But now, I'm in a different season of my life. So who knows if I'll end up swinging the pendulum back and being like, I need to move back to Hollywood. But for right now, I'm really happy with where I'm at. And mainly because when I create, I really need to be able to focus on my own little world that I'm trying to replicate. And I don't want anyone's opinions until it's done and it's happening. And then I'm like, I can't control what your opinion is.
Mm.
Which I don't, as long as I've replicated what's in my head and like really brought someone into my inner world in a way that feels sufficient, I think I'm okay with the outcome, whatever their opinion is.
Can we talk for a second about why we want to do this? Not just you, but artists in general, writers, painters, actors. What is it? Do you have any idea? Like, what is it that drives us to want to share this about us? Where I share this because like I work my full-time gig, I work for the government and I do social media, and I'm supposed to humanize government employees who have no desire to share anything about themselves with the world. But I come from the theater and I come from this creative space where I want to share with you how I feel. I went to college. I got my degree talking about how I'm breathing when I'm feeling different emotions and how I walk differently depending on like how I'm feeling that day. Like, but there's, there are creators. And there are people who just want to live their life and do their job and provide for their family and share as little as possible. Do you have any thoughts on what it is that separates people who just want to bare their soul, like in what they want to share with people, what is in their mind, as compared to anyone who has no desire to do that?
Well, first off, I have lots of opinions about this, but first off, I'm so jealous of those people who just want to go to work and provide for their family and live life. Insanely jealous. Like the amount of times I wish that were me. I wish that were enough. I wish that satisfied. It doesn't, but it would be great if it did. And one of the reasons I feel like it doesn't, I personally, I'm not of any religious affiliation. I think they're all a little bit right and a little bit wrong. And that if we were meant to know what's supposed to happen or who's in charge, we would. So that's kind of my perspective on that. But I do think that like creatives, people who feel that desire innately in themselves to create, I think it's a spiritual calling. And I don't think you get a real choice in that. I think it chooses you. Because there have been so many times where I've tried to put the pencil down, put the guitar down, be like, that's it. No more torture for me. But it doesn't really matter what I want because I wake up in the middle of the night and I have an idea or a story just comes to me or I feel called. The call just gets louder and louder until I write the thing and create the thing. And I think that's more of it. And if you don't have that calling, and you're trying to be creative, I think it manifests differently, because I think theoretically you'd be able to stop if you're just torturing yourself. Whereas if you're really called to it, you just can't stop, even though you're spending ungodly amounts of money, even though it's emotional torture. I was literally talking to my therapist about this today. Even though, you know, you go through so much shit with your inner critic leading up to whatever you're putting out there, like there's lots more reasons to not do it than to do it. So there has to be something spiritual or compulsive, like against your will, kind of.
Yeah. Something working through you, using you as a vehicle, but also wouldn't be what it is without who you are and your input that you want to share with the world. It it's so interesting because on the flip side, like there are people like, I'm gonna call her out right now. She's probably, I don't know if she's watching this live stream, but she probably will as soon as she can. But my own mother encouraged me from day one to follow my heart's fire, do the creative stuff, but um, didn't do that herself. And she's an incredible writer, and at times she'll be super inspired and she will write amazing works of inspirational stuff, and she's never shared it publicly. She will share it with her closest friends and like with me, and I've always found that to be so interesting, whereas like it's like she's encouraged me my whole life to just put it out there and follow my heart, walk through the doors and share stuff. But when it comes to her very own stuff, she's like, no, I'm not ready to share that. And I think that's fascinating. I don't know if it's a spiritual thing or just our last episode we had on for the second time. We met him in season one, much like we met you, but he had his name is Krishnan. He had a near-death experience. He was driving down the road on his motorcycle and got hit in the head by an SUV. And he's like, his whole life has changed. And he's he still says he can tap into the other side beyond the veil and get wisdom from the other side while he's living this life. And but what that does for him is it inspires him to continue to create and to inspire people. And I wonder when we have these kinds of conversations, if artists if the veil is thinner for artists than it is for other people. And I don't mean that judgmentally at all. I just like, as I'm examining through these conversations with people, like, I just wonder, like, I question human nature and what it is about artists that want to be vulnerable and want to share their vulnerability with people.
You know, I think that's, first off, like I've also been through some near-death experiences. And like it makes me wonder if your guest is just like profoundly called to something, you know, because I don't feel like I can communicate I don't feel like I can communicate across the veil in the sense of like my near-death experience gave me that. But I do think I'm extremely sensitive um, to energy and to people's emotions and to like I feel like I can connect with like people's, I guess, things about them that I don't know yet, but I know in my heart, you know, things they've been through that I can feel off of them. And so I'd say to a certain extent, maybe all creatives have some kind of tether to like the energetic realm.
The energetic realm.
Yeah, if we're getting woo-woo here.
Okay, let's get woo-woo.
Okay, well, let's get really woo-woo then. So speaking of great art, did you ever watch Haunting of Hill House?
No.
Oh my God, you have to.
Okay.
You just have to.
The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes. One of the best TV experiences I've ever had in my whole life. And it was, to me, an example of how profound art can be, because I watch TV all the time.
Mm.
And, it's entertaining, it's fun, it passes time, it's engaging, it starts conversations, it connects people. But then there's always the occasion where you see an episode or a TV show or a season where it's above that, where you feel like it changes your perspective on the world to have watched it. And that's how Hill House felt for me. And basically, by the end of the season, you realize that in that universe, time isn't linear. Because one of the women, I'm going to spoiler alert, spoiling. One of the people in the show is haunting herself. So she's plagued by like a sleep paralysis demon that turns out to be her spirit from after she dies.
That's meta.
So that the show basically posits that time doesn't move the way we think it does.
Right.
And that you could die and then haunt yourself as a child.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And it changed my whole world to watch that show, because I was like, why do I think that, maybe instead of it being like we have like people die and they go to wherever's next, and then, I'm going to like pursue and fulfill my calling until that's my time. Maybe in some way I've already had my lifetime impact, and that time is falling all around me in like a 360 rather than going in a line.
We have no idea.
Yeah, we have no idea. We created not to like get all conspiracy, but we created markings of time based on the cycles of nature, but we don't really know whether time moves that way.
Yeah. It's all about energy.
Yeah. And so I think artists like are more perceptive to like feel the energy of others, and even others who might have passed, especially if it's possible that time doesn't move the way we think it does. Just food for thought.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, I'm absorbing and digesting it now. And they always say, gosh, we've gone down a whole different road than I thought we were going to, but I'm all here for it. No, I'm here for it. We always say, depending on your own personal ideas of what happens after you die and past lives and reincarnation or whatever, and lessons we learn, but like obviously energy continues. And I think energy that is created through birth is energy that is continued from something else. And depending on how connected you are to the whole energetic spectrum, that's why I got excited when you mentioned energy. There are so many conversations to be had about the whole
we could go all night.
Yes.
You could go all night and you would be like a 10-hour podcast.
But I love what you're saying about, this closer connection. Maybe the people that want to share, maybe people who are more drawn to sharing the more vulnerable sides of themselves with the world, work on it for ages, for a lot of time, and then just share it with the world and say, hey, judge this. Maybe those people are closer tied to the fabric of that energetic spectrum.
Totally. And like, like you've never watched Haunting of Hill House, right?
Right.
It's had this massive impact on me. Like unexpectedly. I didn't go in going, I'm going to be impacted. And whenever I feel that impact from some other piece of art, I'm reminded that like I prejudge my own impact based on what I assign value to in regards to what I create. So like I'm putting out this book and I see it one way, but I don't have control over the good of it either. Of like, it could be someone's Haunting of Hill House that changes their entire perspective. There's a million shows being made every year. Who decides what connects and what doesn't? and who it gets connected to when is so subjective that you have to just create blind and hope that if you're authentic about how you create, that it will connect with the right people at the right time.
That is very interesting, because a lot of times in my creative past, like I felt like this is going to be the one that people are like, yes, and it's not. But then I'll make something else and I'm just like, meh, but people are like, that, yes.
Exactly.
It's wild, but none of that happens if we don't continue to create. If we self-censor ourselves and go, well, this isn't going to be good enough, that's not going to be good enough, like none of that happens.
Yeah, and if we, let's say, move that needle one, like even more forward, like if creators out of their own financial and personal discomfort, because this is essentially like, I don't know, like a torture device from Saw/Hamster Wheel. Like, it's not fun. I'm having a good time. If creators just all step back, like we wouldn't have those monumental pieces of art that fundamentally change the way we see ourselves in society.
Yeah.
You know, everyone would have gone, I want to be comfy instead, which is valid. If I could do it, I would, you know.
Sure.
But then there's, I think, merit to being the person who's like, well, I know that I'm called, and this is my calling.
Maybe I'm not a millionaire, but I need to keep doing this.
Exactly. Like, it would be great to be a millionaire, although I have my own feelings about what I believe there is such a thing as too much money.
Sure.
And that it corrupts and poisons people's brains and lives.
Yeah.
But I really don't know if like I could stop creating even if I wanted to. So I might as well lean into the fact that I don't know who's going to like it or how it will affect them. You just don't know. You just have to do it, right? Like, what else are you going to do?
You have this thing burning inside you that you need to show people, and you do or you don't, but you better do.
Yeah.
Or it's going to burn you out.
Exactly. And even if I could stop, I don't know. It would be awesome for my mental health to be able to stop. But I think that what I do in the world matters on some level that I don't get to know, because the unknown of the universe is probably what keeps us all sane. I think if we knew everything of the universe, maybe it'd be too much and we'd all explode. I have no idea.
Yeah. And based on that thought, there's also a whole, the whole mindset of when you're born, you come from the all-knowing, and your journey here on life is to return to that. And oh gosh, we're getting so meta right now. I love it.
I love it too. I love this shit.
This idea that I love and I try and follow with my life is trying to remember that source of, they say, well, I just mentioned Christian on the near-death experience guest that we had last episode, was saying that God is divine love. It's just a source of love. It's just all love. And that's where we come from, and that's where we're going. And our journey in life is to try to remember that, being part of that and affecting other people as we go along that journey. And I think a lot of us creators are just trying to share with people our heart's fire, because it shows them that they are seen, they are loved, people understand them. And we've got a whole journey that is something that develops from the minute we're born till the minute that we die. And it's
absolutely, I 100% see it as a calling that you don't really get a choice in the matter.
We share what we have because we feel like we have to, and it's part of our journey.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's talk about your music video.
Thank you.
This is for a tune that you put out called You Effing F. And there's actually no profanity in the song.
No, which is, I have overthought and underthought my decision to keep swear words in the title because it makes my life harder, even though there's no swear words in the song. But so many people connected with it because of the title that I just keep it that way.
I love it. I want to talk all about it. But before we do, let's show it to everybody and everybody can give it a listen. If you're listening on the podcast, and you can watch it here on YouTube. Here is Kat Hamilton's You Effing F.
I knew you better than anyone did, and it's growing underneath my skin like a fungus. Told your friends I was crazy and it's all in my head, but you said something else when you were kissing my neck. Tell your girlfriend that I was too drunk and mistake, but you were sober when you slid your hand up my leg. The night you said you'd give anything to have me. It's funny how the truth changes when you're walking on the wire. It's funny how the truth changes when expectations are getting higher and higher and higher. This pen is my revenge. You're gonna know that I write better songs than you do. So go ahead, keep your secrets, play pretend. I write better songs than you do. You didn't think of me then, you're gonna think of me now. With every lyric you're screaming out, I write better songs than you do. I write better songs than you do. Remember that time you threw my life off the building? Thought it was a little uncalled for. Or that time that you told me you thought about me every time that you touched yourself. Somewhere there's a sock that needs a lot of bleach. Somewhere there's a guy that needs some mental help. I hope that you're happy. I don't hope that you're happy. It's funny how the truth changes when you're walking on the wire. It's funny how the truth changes when expectations are getting higher and higher and higher. This pen is my revenge. You're gonna know that I write better songs than you do. So go ahead, keep your secrets, play pretend. I write better songs than you do. You didn't think of me then, you're gonna think of me now. With every lyric I'm screaming out, I write better songs than you do. 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 I write better songs than you do.
So much fun. I'm getting so many Harley Quinn vibes. Like what? How?
Oh, good.
Okay, so what inspired the song, and how did that go into the vision for the video?
Well, song was inspired by real life. Um, and someone I used to date who royally fucked me over. And, the first voice memo, I write a lot in voice memos. Like not just that I make voice memos of what I've written, I write a lot in voice memos. So if I have a song idea, I'll put on the voice memo and I'll write and I'll record my writing of it.
Mhm.
That way I don't miss any magic, you know? And so my first ever voice memo of the song I called Fuck You, You Fucking Fuck. And you know, it's like late at night, like thick, and then I went to bed, you know? And as me and my producer were turning the song into reality, I just connected with the raw anger, I guess, of like not censoring yourself so other people will feel better. Like, you know, um, I think it's a lot about like the feminine anger. I definitely am not somebody who am, I don't really do anger very well. I have a really hard time metabolizing it. It usually comes out as tears. I usually end up going, well, they, you know, they hurt me, but they, you know, they were going through this or blah, blah, blah. Like I always find a way to like negotiate with my own anger so it's less. And so this was like an experiment in writing and creating the song and just not doing that. Even with the lyrics, just letting things be as cutting or as brutal as they came out of me as, and not censoring that even to appear nicer was really hard for me. It was a good writing challenge. So for the video, I had a total like vision in my head. I mean, I collaborated with the director Mel Orpen a lot, but I had a total vision in my head of what it would be like, and I definitely a Harley Quinn Birds of Prey vibe was like a huge influence. It's in like anytime I make like a video or do a photo shoot, I make a Pinterest board with images inspiring it so the person doing the work for me gets like a really good idea of like the color story and how I
Yeah.
want things lit and and that was a ton of it was like Birds of Prey, Gunpowder Milkshake, Charlie's Angels. You know, obviously I have a low budget, so I couldn't recreate that on the level I would want to, but that kind of thing.
For sure. People in the chat are saying Avril Lavigne as
Oh,
well.
cool.
They see that Harley Quinn. Dave Hill says Cycle Sluts from Hell. I don't know what that is, but it
Oh,
sounds like
wait. Is that a
biker.
movie from like, is that like a pulp movie?
Probably based on the title, I assume. But
Yeah. Oh, and the other one that really inspired me was John Tucker Must Die. I loved the idea of like all these women teaming up, strangers on a train style, to get revenge on each other's exes and, you know, the men who wronged them. I really liked that.
love it. And smashing the bottles, was that fun?
The most fun. The
Was
most
it?
fucking fun. The director set up this massive tent. It was at my producer's house. We shot everything there. Again, small budget, so I couldn't have, you know, when you think about, people don't really think about how much goes into shooting a video, but like when you think of multiple locations, you're adding days of labor.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's not just that I couldn't afford to like rent out multiple locations or anything. It's more so that you have to make sure you can milk your location for all you can, because every day you add a new location and you're transporting all the people involved with the video, and you're adding time and you're adding days and adding money. So we recorded at my producer's house, and we set up this giant tent by the swimming pool in his backyard. And inside the tent was like the glass bottles hanging from threads. And then we wore safety goggles, and the glass was sugar glass. And one of the people involved in production knew someone who worked in action movies and was able to get us a bunch of sugar glass bottles that they use for like, you know, bar fight scenes and stuff.
So much fun. I had some trouble with some sugar glass. I made a movie, and one of the scenes was I was standing next to a bar, and a bullet goes through a carafe on the bar, and the carafe's supposed to shatter. But we were using a pellet gun, and it would just make a little hole in the sugar bottles. So like we had a really hard time making a bottle shatter. Anyway,
You did have to hit them with a baseball bat.
Yes. I digress. But love the video. For anybody out there listening to the podcast that loves the song, you got to check out the video. Her YouTube channel is Kat Hamilton Official. Check it out. And of course, follow her on the Instagrams and the Facebooks at Kat Hamilton Official, because she has not just music, amazing music, as she does. You can find her on Spotify. Of course, we talked about this in season 1, but find her on Spotify, Kat Hamilton. She's got all her music up there. Her EP, I Wish This Was a Love Story. She's got her singles, including the one we just heard. She's got her first EP, The Gray Area.
And my album, Recovery Songs, will be re-releasing on Spotify very soon. It was taken off.
Gotcha. I was wondering what happened to that, but I didn't want to bring it up because...
No. I got punished for fake streams. It's like this weird practice that distributors sometimes do. And so I just have to re-upload all of it.
Okay.
And then, that happens.
But Recovery Songs is coming back, making a comeback on Spotify. So go follow her on Spotify as well. But I mean, the big thing we want to talk about tonight is the book that she's an author. She's about to be published as we're recording this on Monday in a few days. And once the
I grab the book and show you.
Yeah, let's do it. And hopefully, as she steps away from the camera here, she can't hear what I'm saying, but hopefully she'll read us a poem or two from the book as well. Can't wait to hear it.
Oh, okay.
We talked about it in the first season. We learned you were working on this book, and it's got the same title. Mm-hmm. And what's the process been like from from a year ago till now?
Hair pulling, the worst. It's been the worst process on the planet. I mean, I've learned a shit ton, but it's been awful. And I say that because I would never want to hide the truth. It's not really in my artist ethos anyways.
Sure.
So this is my proof copy. I don't have my author copies yet, which sucks big time because I found out they won't be there in time for the party. And I'm very depressed about that, but what can you do? But yeah, this is the things we've lost. And I keep trying to remind myself that even though it's been a stressful process, the thing that matters is that I wrote it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've spent probably 200 hours on formatting.
Wow.
Just getting the poems to sit on the page correctly.
Right.
I mean, I just started losing my mind doing it. I would just start laughing and crying and screaming. And I watched 3 seasons of Felicity while formatting, tons of Law and Order. It's been a hard road to get it out, but I'm super proud and excited. So.
Oh, it's such a huge thing. And when we talked to you a year ago, the poems were numbered, not named. Mm-hmm. Do they sit that way the same?
Yep. They're still just numbers.
Is there one you could read us tonight?
Of course. I'm always down for a fireside reading.
Yeah, we'd love that.
I just hope that I don't read the same one. I'm going to pick one that I think maybe was written more recently after we had talked.
Yeah.
Give me a second. Yeah, this one. All right, this is number 48. I hope I didn't read this last time. Did everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. All right, number 48. You don't go insane just once. The dam breaks and floods your small city. It drowns post offices and banks. Consumes the town square where the farmers market is held every Thursday. The disheartened rebuild it with weary hands. Fathers rub dirt on their noses as they secure blocks of concrete in rows, but the construction isn't quite the same. Families who lost their belongings struggle to get to work. Children go to school without backpacks or pencils. The dam is resurrected, but the injuries remain. Pillars hide cracks like vices. Rocks move so slightly that you wonder if you're just seeing things. On quiet nights, the river moans so loud you have to close the sliding door. Days are marked by bake sales, car washes, walkathons, and book fairs. The mayor cuts a ribbon to signal a collective exhale, and a year or two passes, until one morning. You're brushing your teeth in the bathroom, and you hear collective shrieks in the distance, water in your socks. Your neighbor's mailbox floats idly by your window. You walk out your front door, and the oldest man in town is trapped on his porch, waving his cane like that'll help. So you wade into the water and dunk your head underneath.
When people say like words and paintbrush strokes are a different medium, like literally that's true. But when you hear poetry like that, it's not. Like you're painting strokes of a story, like, and just illustrating so much color and emotion with each line that you write in your words there. And it's just like, I have so much respect for poets and what they can do with their words, that it is something that I've tried to integrate into Cove Podcast from the very, very start. And gosh, I can't wait to get my hands on your book. That was another incredible piece that we posted.
Thank you. Yeah, the book will be available on Amazon starting Monday, so you can get your book. And there will also be a companion audiobook that I recorded myself.
Wow.
So I'm reading all the poems, and my dear friend Will Hensley played pedal steel in and out of the chapters of the book.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there's like a soundtrack vibe too, and it just allows you to experience auditorily if you don't like reading, or if you want to read along with the audiobook and hear me say all these poems. So
that's amazing. Will that be on Audible?
It will at some point, not yet, because the thing with Audible is you have to have the book out first.
Okay.
So there was just nothing I could do, but it will be on iTunes, Apple, or Amazon Music, Spotify. So wherever you get music, it will be there. And you can.
Will it be on your Spotify? The Cat Hamilton? Oh, perfect.
Like an album, except it'll be a book.
Yeah. That's so incredible. That's awesome.
That comes out on Monday too.
For anybody out there, of course, that wants to keep up with Kat, we've mentioned it several times, but her website's cathamiltonofficial.squarespace.com. You can find her on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Cat Hamilton Official. I cannot wait to get my hands on your book. I have a stack of books from the people who have been guests on my show, and I love adding to that bookshelf. But I can't wait to read your poetry and hear your poetry on Spotify. And I loved our time together here tonight. We have to
same.
Reconnect again very soon.
Yeah, just invite me on once a season. I'll come back. Okay. We'll talk some shit about Titanic, I'm sure. And we'll go into stuff about death. It'll be great.
And we'll talk about all of this, all of the stuff that we didn't get to tonight, of which there is a deep well. But ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Kat for her time this evening. And let's hear it for Kat Hamilton and all of her work, her new book coming out very soon, The Things We Lost, and her all of the work that she's put out over the years on the Spotify's. And oh my gosh, congratulations for everything. Kat Hamilton.
So good to see you both.
Great to see you. Have a good night.
Wow. This is what I love about doing follow-ups. I mean, you find out more about the person, and what it was a year ago can be totally different a year later.
And we talk about it, and I remember like we talked with her like a year ago. One of the subjects was about like the importance of celebrating your victories and having a cookie, we called it. And we talked about how much she loves cookies. And I just remember because it was a fun conversation, but it's so important. Like, and what's happening right now with these different seasons of the show is like when we can check in with somebody who last year was doing this and this year they're doing that, and things have happened in their life. And for creatives, it's interwoven with the story that we're telling and the art that we're making. And this has been fascinating here at the start of season 2 to just really take a step back and examine it firsthand through this show.
Mm-hmm. It shows, especially today, how much, and there's a gentleman by the name of Jim Rohn who talks about the 4 seasons, in other words, the seasons of life. And it sounds like, and it's something that we all go through. We all have our springs, our summers, our winters, and falls. And that is what makes the total of our life. The A plus B plus C equals life. And I think it was because of the previous podcast with Kat that I kind of came up with that little formula. Because we are the sum of all of our experiences throughout life. I mean, not obviously when you're young, there are not as many experiences, so you don't understand what's going on. But as you grow through life, as you experience more and more, you become who you are at this moment.
Yeah.
And it is at this moment, whatever those experiences are, whether you experienced a low earlier on, and now because of all of the lows you've experienced, you're on a high, or maybe you're on a slightly downward trend, but it's going to come back around and go back up. One thing I love to share with people is we like to think that there is a straight line between the 2 points of the starting of what we want to where we want. And it's never that way.
Mm.
We always, it's a zigzag of going back and forth, up and down, in and out, left, right, north, south, east, west. I mean, eventually the goal, which is still in sight, is there and it's waiting for us. And once we achieve it, it's a celebration. But it's because of the journey that we've gone through and the experiences that we've gone through that makes that end point a nice celebration. And we have to all go through it.
Yeah, that's such a profound point. Like, you think, here's my goal. Here's my trajectory. I'm going to get there, hopefully. No, like your path zigzags and goes up and down and this way and that way. And it's like the road the road to Big Bear. You can't just take a straight line from your house to Big Bear. You have to take roads and like, but that's life. That's also life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What I love though is that she is still following her passion, her soul. And I think that is so incredible because she said it's her spirit calling, her spiritual calling. It chooses you. She was tapping into her source. What is everybody's source? And that is what is here, what is in your heart, what you feel. I did come up with a poem to share. I mean, in addition to what Kat had. And I'm going to say it's kind of where she is at with regards to what she's going through, because it's an introspective and a personal tone that comes to life in this poem. It's from Elizabeth Bishop, and it focuses on the speaker's emotional state and the need for artistic solace amidst a rapidly changing world, especially when she said she's moved out of the city and into Tahunga. And I just thought this is a great poem about tranquility and a sense of transcendence. And it's called I Am in the Need of Music. And she won a Pulitzer Prize, this author, Elizabeth Bishop.
It's called I Am in the Need of Music.
I Am in the Need of Music.
As interpreted by Craig Jackman.
I am in the need of music that would flow over my fretful feeling fingertips, over my bitter tainted trembling lips, with melody deep, clear, and liquid slow. Oh, for the healing swang old and low of some song sung to rest the tired dead, a song to fall like water on my head, and over quivering limbs dream flushed to glow. There is a magic made by melody, a spell of rest and quiet breath and cool heart that sinks through fading colors deep to the subaqueous stillness of the sea and floats forever in a moon-green pool, held in the arms of rhythm and of sleep.
I want to say thank you and welcome to our newest Patreon Cove community member, our Cove curator, Wendy Walker. Wendy, thank you so much. She's already so involved in the production of the show as far as being a cast member on our monthly request episodes that are our exclusive bonus episodes for our Patreon community. Thank you, Wendy, for every way you support this show, this podcast. And thank you to the rest of our Cove curators, Josepha Snyder, Ramin Serona Farron, Angelica Bolschweiler, Anna Gina Vola, Charity Swanson, Emily Thatcher, Gina Dobbs, Jamie Carganilla, Kelsey Blaine Gibson, Krista and Matt King, Meryl Milkey, Susan Kuhn, and now Wendy Walker. Thank you all so much for keeping this show going and growing. This independent podcast couldn't happen without the support of so many amazing individuals like you. So thank you so much. Love you all, and let's keep it going.
I put the coat on her.